All right, guys. So we'll pick it up from chapter 8, and just like I told you a few minutes ago, I think probably starting the next lesson, we'll see how we can try to get more practice using the actual new SAT practice tests. I think there's only 4 available online right now, but don't quote me on that. But still, just for the sake of having more practice, we'll do that. It's just with transitions. I think it was practice this one, and going through it seemed like the closest questions that resembled transitions match what we did in chapter 1, which was relevancy, relevance rather. So I guess for this topic, we just try to get in depth with it and get a lot of questions from this textbook, just because I think transitions is actually a very important topic. And it kind of ties in with chapter 1 now that I'm thinking about it. And after looking at some of practice test 1, but maybe you guys shouldn't worry too much about that and try to pick it up. I'll try to incorporate some of those in the next lesson. Yeah, so today we're looking at chapter 8, which is transition. And if you recall, I know this was like 2 weeks ago, when we were doing another writing session, we had looked at chapter 7, which was the use of commas, pretty much. So periods, sorry, not the use of commas, but the use of periods, semicolons, and conjunctions to join sentences. Basically combining and separating sentences, yes, using periods, semicolons, commas, and conjunctions. So in this chapter, we're just going to build off from that. We're going to build off on top of that. So last time we're looking at how to join a bunch of sentences from, in terms of grammar. But now this time we're going to look at joining sentences in terms of logic. So what I mean is, last time we looked at joining sentences from a grammatical point of view, and today we're going to look at it joining sentence from like the quote unquote meaning point of view. So last time was a grammatical standpoint. This time is going to be from a meaning standpoint. So let's just get right into it. So when I say we're going to learn how to join them from a meaning or a logical standpoint, what I mean is the SAT will sometimes give you questions. You just zoom that out a bit. The SAT may sometimes give you questions that you might see more than one answer being grammatically correct, but you also remember you need to consider context. So just because you have maybe 2 or 3 things being grammatically correct doesn't mean they're all correct. Remember, there's only one answer. And if you remember, if you attended the last lesson, you probably remember we had an example one time that had one answer choice had a period, one answer choice had a semicolon, and these essentially were like they work the same way. And the other one had a fanboy conjunction. I think it was a and. It was a comma plus an and. And we saw that 3 out of the 4 of the answer choices were grammatically equivalent, So in such a situation, we knew that the answer was obviously the one that wasn't the same, because there can only be one correct answer. But I just wanted you guys to know that in terms of transition, sometimes the SAT may bring things that are grammatically correct, like more than one answer choice that's grammatically correct, but you have to be responsible for being able to recognize what the correct answer is using logic or meaning or context. And that's what we'll be learning about in transitions. I hope that makes sense. So we'll start by looking at our first example. Let me just look at who's joined here. Okay, I think we can pick it up from here. All right, so let's look at the first example we have here. Is architects don't often become as famous as other types of artists, such as painters, so their work can have a greater effect in the long term. Architecture is essentially the art we live in. Buildings shelter, and protect us throughout our lives for home, okay? For home, work, and play. Even if we've never stood in any of the buildings designed by master architects, we've probably been in plenty of buildings that incorporate the influences. All right, so I guess we're focusing on the first sentence. So architects don't often become as famous as other types of artists, such as painters, so their work can have a greater effect in the long term. Okay, so a good way to look at transitions, I would say, is before I give you guys a try, I'll give you guys a try the next one. But I wanted to say a good way to look at transitions. A good trick I had learned is sometimes you could just like cross out. So you cross out the word, the transition. Okay. So you try to read this sentence without the transition. So you can see what's coming before the underlined and what's coming after the underlined phrase, and then see what's the connection. So I'll get into it very soon, but the essentially three types of transitions. Okay. We have what we call continual transitions. So it means what's coming before and what's coming after are linked. So there's the logic or the relationship between what's coming before and what's coming after is the same, is related. So we use a continuing transition like and, you know, and then we have what we call cause and effect. So cause and effect means what's coming before and what's coming after. There's a cause and effect relationship. It means one happened because of the other. So for example, he is a he's a very fast runner. Therefore, he earned many medals. So the word therefore is a cause and effect transition, because him getting many medals is because he was a very fast runner. So what comes before the transition, therefore, and what comes after the transition, therefore, shows a cause and effect relationship. So those are called cause and effect transitions. And then the other type of transition that exists is called contradicting. So those that are contradictory. So I can say he appears to be a very well-behaved boy. However, he always gets in trouble with the principal. All right. So this boy appears to be a very, very well-behaved. However, which is a transition, he, gets in trouble with the principal. So what's coming after is showing that there's a difference. Okay. So the relationship is contradictory. So a transition such as however shows basically a relationship that's contradicting. So again, that was just kind of a heads up into what we'll be looking at today. But I want you guys to try to look at this. It says architects don't often become as famous as other types of artists, such as painters, right? So their work can have a greater effect in the long term. Actually, you might not even need to cross this out. Maybe you guys want to try real quick. Is there anyone who wants to tell me what you think the answers are, looking at A, B, C, and D, and then I'll get straight into it. Okay. I guess no one wants to try it, and that's okay. For now. All right. So if we look at the first part of this sentence, it says architects don't often become as famous as other type of artists. All right. So we have that right before the underlying part, and let's look at what comes after the underlying part. The underlying, what comes after, it says a greater effect in the long term. I would say, do you think, okay, you don't have to tell me the answer, but if any one of you could tell me, do you think there's okay, so Shakila has a hand, and I guess I'll pass this one to you, Shakila. Do you think the relationship between the first part you know, the first part says they don't often become as famous. The last part is talking about them having a greater effect. Do you think that's a cause and effect, a continuing or a contradicting type of transition between these two statements? Shakila.
You can repeat, please.
All right. So my question is, if you see what's coming before what I've crossed out, it says architects don't often become as famous as other types of artists, right? We have that statement, and then we have another statement that says their work can have greater effect. Let me just maybe erase this. Yeah. So the first part of let's look at the first part of this sentence. It says architects don't often become as famous as other types of artists, such as painters. And then the other part says, so their work can have a greater effect in the long term. So my question for you is, considering the first and the second part, do you think there is a continuing transition, or a contradicting transition, or a cause and effect transition? If you look at the two statements in terms of from the point of view of logic or meaning, do you think the link between these two statements is a contradicting one, a continuing one, or a cause and effect?
Continuing.
Continuing. What makes you say that? Okay, so actually, before you tell me what makes you say that, so on one part is saying they don't often become as famous, right? Which means they I'm just going to it's probably not fair for me to say this, but I'll say, since they don't become as famous, probably their work does not have a greater effect in the long term, right? Because if you look at I want you to see what's happening here. It says, unlike painters, right? So architects don't often become as famous as other types of artists, such as painters. Their work, so these architects, actually, maybe let's run it back. Let me ask this question: whose work can have a greater effect in the long term? Is it the architects or the painters?
It's just
the architects, exactly. All right, that's awesome. So it's the architects. So now, don't you guys think it's kind of weird how we are saying they don't become as famous, and then we say somehow their work can have a greater effect in the long term? Don't you think there's a contradiction there?
I guess.
Okay, so right now we're still on the guesses, but we're going to need to be sure very soon, because there's going to be a couple of questions afterwards. But let's just try to dissect it properly. Let's look at the answer choices. Okay, I want you guys to try to compare the answer choices, and I think that might help, right? A, B, C, and D. And then tell me what you think the answer is, and then let's build up from that. Yeah.
B.
Okay, so we have one B. Okay.
I think B is the answer.
Was that a D, like D for dog?
No, B as in B for boy.
B for boy. Okay. Okay. Why is boy the first word that came to you? I'm just playing. I'm playing. Okay, so we have two B's. Anyone else?
D.
D. All right. Who say D? You said D as in dog, right? Okay, yeah, Jessica. Okay, got you. Okay, so we have two B's and one D. Going once, going twice. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, I think I have a cold, so if I sound a bit funny, that's what it is. Okay, so we have two B's and one D. All right, and I guess everyone else is kind of feeling shy, probably. Let me see. Is there anything in the chat? I don't know. Okay, no, there's nothing in the chat, so I'm not missing anything. All right, cool. So, I see where you guys are coming from. Like all of you, the B's and the D's. But I won't say my answer yet. I want us to kind of go through this and think through it. So, first of all, I want to say, we're all sure that A is not correct and C is not correct, right? Because no one said A and C. So,
No.
Awesome. So I'm glad. Now, I want us to understand why A and C are incorrect. So the reason why they're incorrect is because A and C, the word so, and then for using the word and, these are like, actually, let's focus on and for now. This is like a continuing transition. We're saying these guys don't become as famous as painters, so their work can have a greater effect. That doesn't make sense because what's coming after their work having a greater effect is contradicting the first statement. They don't become as great, so there's no way they can have a greater effect than even painters. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, so there's a contradiction right there, right? So architects don't become as famous as other types of painters, other type of artists, such as painters. So it doesn't make sense for architects' work to have a greater effect. That doesn't make sense. There's a contradiction there. So we can't have A, we can't have C. So we're left with B and D. So we need a contradicting transition. So we have however and but. The great part is both however and but are contradicting transitions. But what helps us decide, is it B, is it D? Because we can only have one answer. So I'm going to ask Jessica. Jessica, what made you say D? Let's start there.
Okay, so first they were talking about the architect that doesn't often become as famous as other type of artists, such as painters.
Mm-hmm.
So they were continuing, so I used but to join because they were referring to painters that they have effect in longer term.
Okay, so they're actually contradicting, right? So we had to use a word like but, for example, because they in the long term they can have work with a greater effect because they're not as famous as painters. But my question for you is why do you think B is wrong? And you're heading onto something, so don't be scared. I just want to hear your thought process before I say something. So why do you think B is wrong? And a hint is we talked about this in the last lesson, but I'm not sure if you guys would remember that, but I'll remind you to help you decide what the answer is. Yeah, so my question for you is why do you think B is wrong? Do you have any idea? And if you don't, that's also that's okay. I'll explain.
Because when normally when someone uses however is when they're continuing from the first passage, and sometimes however is used to introduce a statement or to contrast, and because you're not contrasting and we're not contradicting, we use but.
Okay, so the first part of what you said, actually the first part of what you said is however is used to continue. That's actually incorrect. However is also used to, it's also a contradicting transition. So however is a contradicting transition, but the second thing that you said is very good. It's very strong. So I don't know if you guys remember if you by any chance attended the last class, we had done this thing. We had looked at what we called strong transitions. Okay, so this thing is called strong transitions. And one of them, so I'm going to just write down a bunch of them here. So hopefully you can see them. Examples of strong transitions, nevertheless. Consequently. Therefore, yes, Jessica.
Oh yeah, and I was saying that another word for however is actually but, so it's similar to however.
That's brilliant right there. Yeah, that's true. Exactly. So these are some of them. Let me see if there's any I can think of. But these are examples of strong transitions. Now, what I want you guys to know is when you're dealing with strong transitions, such as however, or any of these, you can't use this as a non-essential clause. So what I mean is, excuse me, what I mean is, if you are going to use, just like Jessica said, if you are going to use a word like however, or nevertheless, or consequently, or therefore, or thus, and moreover. These are considered to be what they call strong transitions. They are transitions, yes, but they're called strong transitions because whenever you use them, they should be used to introduce a statement. So they should always be followed by a full stop or a period, a semicolon. Basically, they're introducing a new statement, right? So we won't be able to use however in this situation. So however, it can't be unless it was non-essential. But in this case, it's not non-essential as well because the thing is we need a transition. So we need to make a transition between the first statement and the second part of the statement. So we need a transition. And so we can't use however because however is not beginning or is not introducing a statement. I hope that makes sense. First of all, before I move on, does anyone have any doubts as to why D is the correct answer? I hope everyone is quiet because there's the reason you're quiet is because there's no confusion. There's no need to feel shy here. Okay, again, just to have a recap. These words I put here are called strong transitions. Okay, they're called strong transitions. Now, technically, I mean, you don't need to remember the name of what, like, no, you would not find an SAT question asking you, what do you call these transitions? This is just a name. They call them strong transitions because they're strong enough to introduce a statement, a clause, right? They're strong enough to begin a sentence. But I can tell you that, again, you do not need to know this. The conjunctive adverbs. This is the technical term for them, the conjunctive adverbs. But again, you do not need to remember that. But I just want you to know that whenever you see these, and these are a few, you can probably know them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I think these are the only ones I can remember. But these transitions are strong enough, quote unquote, strong enough to begin sentences. So whenever you see any of these words, they should always be introducing a new statement, a new sentence. So they usually come after periods of full stops. Yeah, if they're going to be in the middle of the sentence, they have to be maybe non-essential. And in this case, you can't have however be non-essential because we need the transition between the first and the second word, second part of the sentence. So our answer is D. Again, before I move on, are we all good before I move on? I don't want to assume that everyone is okay and then there's problems. Are we all good?
Yes, I personally am clear.
All right, awesome. Okay, so I kind of gave you guys a heads up. The types of transitions that we have 3 types of transitions. We have continuous, we have contradictors, and we have cause and effect. All right, so what are these exactly? Let's get right into it. So like I told you already, continuous are types of transitions that indicate 2 statements expressing similar ideas. So we have some examples here. The tomato is one of the most popular salad ingredients. Okay, so the tomato is one of the most popular salad ingredients. Moreover, it is used in many hot dishes, including soups and stews. Okay, so that's continuing the idea, it's continuing to express the same idea, We have tomatoes are among the oldest crops grown in the New World. In fact, they were cultivated as far back as 500 BC. All right, so we have, again, a continuation. So we have words like moreover, in fact, so you can have other words like similarly, likewise. Do you guys have any other examples? I can give you a couple more. For instance, for example, something that continues to express the same idea. If you have any other example right now, you can feel free to just say it out. But that's pretty much how continuous work. It's kind of in the word. They continue. They continue the same idea. They continue to express a similar idea. But then we also have contradictors. So contradictors show a contradiction, right? So it's going to indicate that the sentences have different or opposing ideas. So continuous are expressing similar ideas, but contradictors are expressing different ideas. So for example, Martha Graham retired from dancing when she was 70 years old. However, she continued to choreograph for many years afterwards. And this makes sense if you think about it. Martha Graham retired from dancing when she was 70 years old. Okay, so she stopped dancing. But then the next idea is talking about how she continued to choreograph, which means she continued to work with dancers, right? For many years afterwards. So it means she never really stopped dancing. So she retired from dancing officially. However, so that's showing a contradicting idea. And then we have a cause and effect. So cause and effect means one thing is as a result of another. Okay, so one action is as a result of another. So we have an example again. It says the tomato is one of the most popular salad ingredients. So many people mistakenly believe. Okay, so this is an error. So many people mistakenly believe that it is a vegetable. All right. So again, that's a cause and effect transition. So we can use different the many types of cause and effect transitions. For example, therefore, consequently, as a result. So for example, let's try using a different cause and effect. The tomato is one of the most popular salad ingredients. Therefore, many people mistakenly believe that it is a vegetable, and that makes sense. So you've got a chart here that's got a couple of transitions for you. So we have continuous and also furthermore, in addition, furthermore, and moreover work similar. So, and also these are just continuing the idea. These add information. We have those that give examples, like for example, for instance, we have those that define, like that is. We have those that emphasize, like in fact, indeed, and we have those that compare, like similarly and likewise. And then we have a sequence of events, like then, next, finally. You do not need to memorize this. Again, you just need to think of the relationship. We have contradictors, although, but, despite, even so, even though, however, in spite of. Just remember that when you're using despite, the word despite is used as it is, but when you're using in spite, it needs to be followed by the word of, this preposition of. So despite and in spite of. Instead, meanwhile, nevertheless, otherwise, rather, still, whereas, while, yet. Okay, so these are all contradicting. And if you're contradicting between two things, you're trying to like not compare, but you're trying to contrast, you can use alternatively, in contrast, on the contrary, on the other hand. Then you also have your cause and effects, accordingly, as a result, as such, because, consequently, since, so, thus, and therefore. All right, so how do you work through transition questions? Like I told you, you can literally pick up your pencil and cross out the transition, like I did there. You crossed out the transition, and then you try to read, and then determine what's coming before the transition and what's coming afterwards. So this works with when you're working with the physical SAT, I guess the order SAT, or if you're using practicing in the real book. So you can actually cross this out in your imagination if you want to. Now you're doing digital, so I don't know, it might be a bit different. Or you can cross out using a digital tool like what I'm doing right now. So let's look at an example. I'll do this example, and then I guess you guys try to take the next one. Let's look at an example. It says conditions in the interior of Antarctica are inhospitable to many forms of life. Okay, so conditions in the interior of Antarctica are inhospitable to many forms of life, which means the conditions inside Antarctica are kind of crazy for life to thrive. Okay, so sub-zero temperatures, high winds, and extreme dryness make it impossible for most animals to survive. The Antarctic Peninsula and the surrounding islands have mild temperatures and liquid water, whereas more animals can thrive there. All right, so I'm going to cross this out. Boom. Let's see what's happening here. So we know that conditions in the interior of Antarctica are inhospitable to many forms of life. Sub-zero temperatures, high winds, and extreme dryness make it impossible for most animals to survive. Okay, so it's a crazy place for animals to survive. Then we have the Antarctic Peninsula, and the surrounding islands have mild temperatures and liquid water. More animals can thrive there. So let's consider this statement down here. From the Antarctic Peninsula. So the Antarctic Peninsula and the surrounding islands have milder temperatures and liquid water. More animals can thrive there. What do you guys think? What type of transition is needed there? Needed here? Do you think it's a continuum, a cause and effect, or a contradictor? You guys let me know what you think real quick.
Cause and effect.
Cause and effect. All right. So we got one cause and effect. Anyone else?
Cause and effect.
All right. So we have two cause and effects. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Okay, so again, I agree with you. It's a cause and effect because more animals can thrive there is as a result of the fact that this place has milder temperatures and liquid water. So it's a cause and effect. So we can use words like although, there, because, therefore, and so on, so on and so forth. So the fact that we know that it's a cause and effect transition, what do you think our answer should be? Looking at the options A, B, C, and D.
Sorry, D.
D. Okay, so we have a D. Anyone else?
D.
Okay, so that's correct. So our answer is actually going to be D. All right. So because more animals can thrive there because of the first statement. The Antarctic Peninsula and the surrounding islands have mild temperatures and liquid water. So that's exactly what it is. Jaden. So Jaden. Jaden, are you there? Can you hear me? Okay, Jaden's awfully quiet today. But that's okay. All right, so that's that was nice, guys. That was very that was correct. I want you guys to try this one. Whenever anyone thinks they've got the answer, it's pretty much the same. It's the same part of the passage, same sentences, I guess, but the question is different. So if anyone thinks they've got the answer, just let me know, and then we'll look at it. Make sure you read this as well, or let me just read it out for you. Always remember that if the beginning of the sentence is underlined, like in this case, make sure you read all the way through to the period, okay, to the full stop. Otherwise, you may not notice a comma splice or an illogical relationship.
D.
Did you say B or D?
D.
Okay, D.
As in
Okay.
dog.
Okay, so we have one D. We have one D right now. Anyone else?
Sorry, D.
Okay, we have another D. Anyone else? Okay. So let's look at this. Let's look at this. Okay, so we know that conditions in the interior of the Antarctica are inhospitable to many forms of life. Sub-zero temperatures, high winds, and extreme dryness make it impossible for most animals to survive. Okay, the Antarctic Peninsula and the surrounding islands have milder temperatures and liquids. More animals can thrive there. Okay, I see what you guys said D. But anyway, okay, so first of all, we all agree that okay, so we all agree that it's nice. It would be nice for us to put it would be more logical for us to put the transition there, right? So A is wrong. We're putting the transition because I think that's the question asking us. Well, we're trying to work with the transition there and see in this sentence how this is going to work. So we remove C because C will be contradicting itself, right? You can't say, although the Antarctic Peninsula has better temperatures or conditions, more animals can thrive there. That doesn't make sense. But we know that many animals can thrive there because of those same conditions, right? So C is wrong, right? Everyone's okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I want you guys to consider the whole sentence from the Antarctic Peninsula up to thrive there, the whole sentence there. So the Antarctic, right now, just for now, I never do this, never skip anything, never disregard anything in the SAT. But just for the purpose of this explanation, I want you guys to disregard what's coming before and just look at the last sentence. Read from one, just read from here. Just this part, right? Just this part, just this part. All the way up to here. I want you guys tell me what you think the answer is. Do you still think the answer is D?
No, can I change my answer, please?
Yes, there you go. Go ahead.
Okay, I choose B.
Okay. Anyone else? Are we still with D? Are we with B? Okay, let's stick with you. Before I give you my reason. And yes, B is actually the correct answer. But I want to ask you, why do you think D is wrong now?
Because when we use whereas, we are using it to we are using it to contrast between two facts, and because they haven't stated any fact in this in the passage, we just conjoin it with because.
Okay, nice. And then also, I think the reason why you guys rush to pick whereas is because whereas puts a nice transition between the
Yeah.
what comes before the underline, before what I've highlighted. So where I think whereas has it between what I've highlighted and the previous sentence, whereas is a nice transition, right? Like it's a nice transition. But I think it would be more logical if we said conditions in the interior of Antarctica are inhospitable to many forms of life. Sub-zero temperatures, high winds, and extreme dryness make it impossible for most animals to survive, whereas the Antarctic Peninsula has more animals living or something like that. Does that make sense? If whereas was a transition in the last the sentences that are in blue, the arrow that I've just drawn there, if whereas was a transition between that and what I've highlighted, but then the sentence ended on maybe like for most animals to survive, whereas the Antarctic Peninsula can host a lot of animals. That would make a lot of sense. I think a bit more sense. But the thing is, whereas is the same as although. So if you guys understand why although is wrong, then you understand why whereas is wrong as well. And just like she's just from saying right now, there's no contradiction in this actual sentence that I've highlighted. We're just saying more animals can thrive there. Why? Because this thing has got better conditions. So because the Antarctic Peninsula and the surrounding islands have milder temperatures and liquid water, more animals can thrive there. So B is correct. But if we say, although it has better conditions, more animals can thrive there, that doesn't make sense. And for that same reason, it's the same as saying, Whereas this has better conditions, more animals can thrive there. So because of this thing being here, this part being here, this is what makes C and D incorrect, and this is what makes B correct. Are we all together?
Yes, we are.
All right, awesome. All right, let's look at one more example. Okay, it's the same text, same text. You guys give it a shot and let me know again, and then we'll move on.
Sorry, A.
Okay, so we have 1A. Anyone else?
C.
Okay, so we have 1A, we have 1C. Let's see if we can get another one. Okay, so I'm going to go over this. Conditions in the interior of Antarctica are inhospitable to many forms of life. Okay, these conditions are sub-zero temperatures, high winds, and extreme dryness. All right, so sub-zero temperatures, high winds, and extreme dryness make it impossible for most animals to survive. The Antarctic Peninsula and the surrounding islands have milder temperatures and liquid water, but more animals can thrive there. Okay, so this is wrong, right? Because we know, oh, sorry, we're not erasing this. We are looking at what's being underlined. Okay, but more animals can thrive there. Yeah, so let's start with, I can't remember who said it was 8, but let's start on that part. Why would you think it's 8? Do you think okay, no, let me not put words in your mouth. Why would you think the answer would be 8 in this case?
I was thinking about the fact that they didn't say anything about when they were discovered or if they were covering ice. But now thinking about it, I actually think that answer might be C, because it is more suitable for the animals to live. So more than likely, they would want to live in the Antarctic area.
Okay, so one thing I would definitely say you're right on is that A is not it. So we'll start there. And the reason why A is not correct is because it's contradicting, right? You can say this place, the Antarctic Peninsula, has these better conditions here, milder temperatures and water, but more animals can thrive there. That's contradicting. It doesn't make sense for you to say, but more animals can thrive there. if it's got better conditions, then definitely that's why more animals can thrive there, right? So it should be so many animals can thrive there. Then that would be correct, right? Because more animals thriving there is as a result. More animals thriving there is as a result of the better conditions. So A is wrong because A is showing a contradiction in a sentence that should show actually, because of the word but, we know that we're definitely going to look for a transition. I mean, a contradiction, sorry. So the Antarctic Peninsula and the surrounding islands have milder temperatures and liquid water, but more animals can thrive there. We know that this is a cause and effect, but we're trying to look for this here, more animals can thrive there, is a cause and effect. But because of the word but, we are trying to look for a transition. I mean, a contradiction. So let's go through the answers and let's look for a contradiction. Let me phrase it that way, right? So do you guys agree that because of the word but, if you look closely, let me try to erase this. If you look closely, the word but hasn't been underlined. So it's not affecting anything. This thing isn't changing. So because of the word but, what's coming after should be a contradiction. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
Okay, so now having that in mind, the Antarctic Peninsula and the surrounding islands have milder temperatures and liquid water. But, and then what comes should be a contradiction. Having me asking the question that way, I want you guys to look at the answers again and tell me what you think the answer is.
C.
Okay, so still on C. Okay, so but they were discovered in the 1840s is irrelevant to this passage because that doesn't affect anything. They lie close to the Antarctic continent. Okay. So we're looking at Antarctica there, Antarctica conditions, and then we say they lie close to the Antarctic continent. So I think the first thing I'm asking here is, what lies close to the Antarctic continent? Is it the animals? Let's look at this sentence. The sentence says the Antarctic Peninsula and the surrounding islands have milder temperature. Oh, so it's the islands and have surrounding.
Can I change my answer right now?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I will actually choose B.
You choose B.
Yes, because but actually introduce why it didn't happen. So the animal that go to Antarctic Peninsula, they are saying why water and stuff is there. So basically they were discovered in the 1840s is why.
I don't think so. Just because what I think what we need to consider is, what does them being discovered in the 1840s have to do with the conditions being mild, or the liquid water? Let's see. I don't maybe okay, sorry.
I think D is the answer.
You think D is the answer? Why do you think D is the answer?
Although it is in the Antarctic area, there are milder temperature there, but it didn't say that. It wasn't still cold. So why I said D now, there are parts there where it's actually liquid water and milder temperature, but there's actually a part that is still frozen.
That's beautiful right there. So again, I'm going to go over everything just in case I'm not delivering this properly. But yes, so D is the answer. Simple reason being because it's the only one that really shows a contradiction. Remember, we saw the word but, so we're looking for something that contradicts. So this area, just like Shakila has just said, this area, the Antarctic Peninsula and the surrounding islands have have better conditions, right? They have milder temperatures, they have liquid water, but enough of these islands are still covered in ice. So, you know, regardless of it having good temperatures and everything, but you know, it's still crazy there, you know, probably just like you know, like Antarctica and everything. So again, let me just go over it real quick. So A is wrong because it's saying more animals can thrive there. Of course, more animals can thrive there because it's got better conditions. So the word but shouldn't be there, but we have a word but. But is showing a contradiction, and the statement that comes after is not contradicting. So A is wrong. Okay, good. B, the answer choice B is irrelevant because it doesn't logically fit and show any good connection or transition, and it doesn't really affect the sentence in any way. If they're discovered in the 1840s, what does that have to do with the Antarctic Peninsula having good, better conditions? Okay, so C, they lie close to the Antarctic continent. This would be correct maybe if you're saying because they lie close to the Antarctic continent, so they have bad conditions as well, maybe, but that's us assuming now. With the SAT, we cannot assume. That's the problem. English on the SAT is meant to seem as though it's subjective, but in actuality, it's actually objective. So when we take the test, even if we're taking it from different countries, if we're writing the same test, what is correct on my form should be correct on your form, on everyone else's paper, and what's wrong should be, you know, wrong. So there's only one correct answer, inarguably. So if we say they lie close to the Antarctic continent, so because they lie it's close, maybe it's also really, really cold and everything, maybe that can make sense, but then that's us assuming. So we just need a contradicting transition. So quite all right, it may have milder temperatures, but it's still covered in ice. Then now that makes a lot of sense, because you know that's why the word but is there. We need something that shows a contradiction. I don't want to move on if there's someone who's still unclear. So if there's someone who's still unclear, please just say something, and I'll be glad to try to clarify that a bit more. Are we all good that okay, just raise your hands. If you don't speak here, just raise your hands. Are we all good that that D is the answer? Okay, awesome. Mr. Tembo, we're good. All right. Actually, didn't see a response there. It's a tough crowd today. But it's okay. So let's see. Oh, he left. That's crazy. So I'm gonna move on to the next example, and I want you guys to try this on your own, and then we'll move on from there. We'll just do transitions, guys. So let's just keep it hyped up. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. We're just doing transitions today, so yeah, we should almost be there. Anyone got an answer yet? And don't be afraid to try. It's all good. Okay, we'll have B. Jaden. It's been long. Jaden's been quiet, guys. It's been quiet. Then same. Can feel it when Jaden's quiet. All right. So yeah. So we have one answer right now. Anyone else? Anyone else? I'll give you guys 2 minutes, just because I think it's a fair question and I think you guys got it. Please don't overthink these things, guys. It's just transitions, guys. Transitions just I'm just trying to show a relationship between two things. You know, are we changing? Are we continuing? Are we contradicting? Are we for lack of a better term, cause and effecting?
C.
Sorry?
C.
You said D?
C.
Oh, he said C. All right. So we have a C. Sorry. Just make sure. So we have a C as well. Okay, we have a C, we have a B. Anyone else? I mean, there's only one. Yeah, anyone else?
Sir C.
Okay, so we have two C's and one B. Hmm. Okay, all right. Okay. All right, let's look at this.
But it could be D also.
Yeah, it could be a D also. I mean, I'm just interested. Wait. Mm, yeah, could you tell me why you're thinking D now before I explain? What made you
Okay.
consider D?
I changed it to whereas because we are starting off on a different topic, and but is used to join two sentences based on the first one.
Okay, awesome. So the actual answer is D, and you're correct.
Yeah, my should answer is D.
Yep, you are correct. You are very, very, very correct. All right, so let's look at it and let's see. But I see why, like I see why C also looks tempting and everything. I see what's going on. But yeah, just allow me to explain and we should be good. All right, so I want you guys to quickly it's just 5 lines. Just quickly read through this. I'm going to read over it. Quickly read through this. You know, again, and then I'm going to read it just now. Okay, so it says, healthy Arctic marine mammals have a thick layer of fat beneath the skin. Okay, so these are healthy Arctic marine mammals. Excuse me, they have a thick layer of fat beneath the skin. What's the best way to join the sentences at the underlined portion? Okay, so tropical marine mammals have very few fat reserves in their body. So we know that there's a transition, right? And as a result, many of them dwell primarily in warm waters that's around coral reefs. So we know that there's a transition there, right? So we're looking at maybe however. Okay, so we see however on A. However was going to be correct, but because however is not beginning a sentence here unless it came after maybe a full stop. In this case, because however is a strong transition. So however is wrong. We know A is wrong. We cancel it. Okay. Skin. So this is a continuing transition. So we cancel B because it's saying healthy Arctic mammals have a thick layer of fat. So tropical marine mammals have few fat reserves. That is incorrect because Arctic marine mammals and tropical marine mammals are two different things. So just because one has thick layers of fat, that's not the reason why the other one should have a thin or few fat reserves, right? So healthy Arctic marine mammals have a thick layer of fat beneath the skin. Tropical marine mammals have very few fat reserves. So we should have a contradiction here. So we have C and D, we have but and we have whereas. Okay, so C and D, but and whereas are both contradicting transitions. But why do we go for D? So listen, let's look at C. But tropical mammals having very few fat reserves in their body creates what we call a fragment. Remember, guys, chapter 6, sentences and fragments. So if we say, but tropical mammals having very few reserves in their bodies, we shouldn't have a full stop there. Do you guys agree? Because
Yes, I agree.
yeah, so because if we say, but tropical mammals having very few fat reserves in their bodies, comma, are more likely to be in warmer places, full stop, then that makes sense. Are you with me?
Yes, I am.
All
Yeah.
right. So exactly. So because when you say having, so these ing words, that's why if you look at the cheat sheet, you have being is usually wrong. So these ing words usually set off when you're looking at gerunds and participles. These ing words usually set off fragments. So fragments are incomplete. They're not standalone. They're not sentences. They can't stand alone. So they are dependent clauses. They're not independent. They need something else. So but tropical mammals having very few fat reserves in their bodies, comma, will need to stay in warmer places. Maybe that would have been acceptable. But you can't say but tropical mammals having very few fat reserves in their bodies, and then you stop. It sounds like there's missing information. It's like me saying, having been a fast runner, having been a fast runner, what? Having been a fast runner, I had received many medals, and then that's more complete. So that's the reason why C is wrong. C sets off a fragment, and then we can't have a period, a full stop there. So, but when we put the word whereas, so tropical marine mammals tropical marine mammals, where am I? Healthy Arctic marine mammals have a thick layer of fat beneath the skin, whereas tropical marine mammals have very few fat reserves in their bodies. As a result, many of them dwell primarily in the warm waters that surround coral reefs. And that's actually correct. So that's how we would work on that one. All right. So okay, let's look at double transitions. So when we're looking at a relationship between two clauses, we should only use one transition. We can't use double transitions. What does this mean? Although the tomato is a fruit, although the tomato is actually a fruit, but many people believe that it is a vegetable. We can use although, we can use but however, we can't use although and but in the same sentence because they're indicating already one of them is already indicating a contradicting transition. There's no point of us using both. For example, although the tomato is actually a fruit, many people believe that it is a vegetable. Okay, that's okay. The tomato is actually a fruit, but many people believe that it is a vegetable. That's okay. But we can't use both because that's a double transition. Okay. Let's look at a sentence. If this was an example of a sentence that brought two transitions, look at these transitions here. We have although, which is a contradicting transition, and then we have and, which is a continua. So we have a contradictor and a continua. So we need to eliminate one because why? Because this is a double transition. But the thing is, which one are we going to eliminate? We need to eliminate the one that has the most logical transition, right? The most logical meaning. So I'm going to just do this and zoom in a bit and ask you guys, which one do you think we're eliminating here? Sorry, I hope you can see it. Yeah. Which one do you think we're eliminating? Although or and?
Although. No, hand.
Okay, nice. Okay, so we're actually going to eliminate and, right? Because although the tomato is actually a fruit, so we know that the tomato is a fruit, people believe it's a vegetable. This is a contradicting. Sorry?
Why should we use a comma and then we use hand?
Okay. Oh, wait, are you asking me a question?
No, I'm telling you that after we use a comma, we don't should use a hand.
Oh, okay. After we use a comma, we don't. Okay. So after the comma, we need to take off the and, exactly. So although the tomato is actually a fruit, comma, many people, so we take off the and, exactly. Many people believe that it is a vegetable. So the thing is, people believing it's a vegetable is contradictory to it being a fruit. So that's why we use the word although here, and we would eliminate and. So that's correct. Let's look at transitions between sentences. Yeah. So we've been looking at transitions within a sentence, but let's look at transition between sentences. And it's pretty much just the same thing. Let's see what you guys can see from here. So I want you guys to tell me what you think the answer is here. Just be careful. You're now considering sentences, not just within a sentence. So I want you guys to quickly read through. I think we're only left with about maybe 2 examples or something, then we should be done with the chapter. So yeah, let's amp it up, and then so that we can go and revise and all that stuff.
D.
Okay, so we have 1D.
Sir, B.
Okay, we have a B. Oh, something in the chat. Actually forgot. Okay, that's beautiful. Jaden as well. That's also beautiful. So the answer is B, because we are looking at 2 things, right? Like comparing and contrasting. We're contrasting here. We're trying to find what's not similar. So D is wrong because, first of all, you should never have a comma after despite. Despite is like you say, despite it being a Saturday, you guys are working towards your SAT grades. So despite it being, we wouldn't say despite, comma, it being a Saturday, that wouldn't make sense. So that's the reason why D is wrong. So you should never have a comma following despite. C, in fact, is wrong because we are having there's a contradicting transition between the previous sentences and what's coming. So that's also why A is wrong, because A is a cause and effect. So we need a contradicting, something that's contradicting transition. So in this case, we need to use in contrast. So something that's comparing, actually contrasting between the two sentences. So yeah. So our answer is actually B, which is in contrast. So showing the opposing idea. So let's see, like I said, we probably have just like one more example, I think. Okay, let's look at it. Let's see how this would work in this context. This should be easy by now because we've been looking at the same words, guys, the same text. So it's this should be good. First of all, let's start by asking ourselves, what type of transition are we looking for? Are we looking for a cause and effect, a contradictor, or a continuum?
Continue.
Sorry? Continue?
Yes.
They're contradict.
Yeah, we're looking for a contradictor. Why? Because it says healthy Arctic mammals have a thick layer of fat beneath the skin. Okay, they have a thick layer. They have a lot of fat, a bunch of it. They're a plethora. They are rich, and they have fat in abundance, right? They have a lot of fat, a thick layer of fat. Tropical marine mammals, on the other hand, these ones have very few. So these guys have a bit of fat, little fat. So there's a contradictor. So looking for a contradictor. So I think we only have one contradictor there. So what do you think the answer is now? You know it's a contradictor. There's only one contradictor there, guys. Don't be scared. Just go for it. So remember, a good way to answer such questions is read the sentence, cross out the transition. What's coming before and what's coming after? So this is what's coming before is talking about a lot of fat, a lot of fat. What's coming after is talking about little. The answer is C, and that's correct. Okay, so the answer is C, and the reason why the answer is C is because it's the only contradictor. Now, remember, I told you guys, don't be scared of, so words like however can be in the middle of a clause. They'll be surrounded by, but they should be surrounded by commas. So they'll be working like non-essential clauses. They'll be surrounded by commas. However, can be in a sentence, in between a sentence. It's going to be surrounded by commas. Otherwise, the only other times it should be starting a new sentence. So when I say starting a new sentence, like beginning, not really a new idea, but it's beginning a new sentence. So in this case, however, let's try to read okay, yeah, let's do this. Especially I didn't see who answered, but yes, C is correct. And what I want you to do is try to read this whole sentence without, because however, if we put however here between two commas, it's pretty much like a non-essential clause, right? So try to read this whole sentence without this part. Let's remove this comma, let's remove this. And then just try to read from the beginning, from the very beginning, from healthy up to here, up to bodies. And tell me, doesn't this still make sense? The only difference is when we put however, we're just putting a transition, we're just making it flow better. But does it still make sense?
Yeah.
Exactly. So the only time you can have a strong transition in a sentence is either when it's a non-essential clause, I mean a non-essential word, or it's beginning a sentence. That's the only time you can have a strong transition, like however, thus, therefore, nevertheless, moreover, and consequently. Those are the only times these words, which are technically called conjunctive adverbs, but they're called quote unquote strong transitions because they are quote unquote strong enough to begin a new sentence. So the only time you should have them in between is if they're surrounded by two commas, they're non-essential. Otherwise, they should be beginning a new sentence. Like in this case, it was okay because it was like a non-essential word. And again, it's the only contradicting transition that we had. Only one. All right. Let's look at literally our last example, I think. Again, try to erase the underlying part from your mind. See what's coming before. I'm trying to hope. I'm hoping like everyone gets this one right. But you know, no pressure, guys. No pressure. But let's try to look at what's coming before the underlying portion, and then what's coming after the underlying portion, and then let's determine, is it a continua, a contradictor, or a cause and effect, and then let's try to help us use that logic to determine the answer. And if you don't see a transition, okay, let me not give too much away, but just don't force answers. Okay, don't force an answer. Just don't be scared to say an answer, because I don't want to just give you. Anyway, you guys let me know. Let me know what you think.
A.
Okay, so A shows that A is therefore. So are you trying to say this is a cause and effect?
B, sir.
B, okay, so it's a contradictor. A contradictor. On the other hand, sub-zero temperatures. Okay, so okay, so Jaden, you're right. Okay, so B is not wrong. B is not wrong, but what I'm going to, let's put it this way: B and D are both correct. But the reason why, yes, Jaden, that's correct. The use of therefore is not needed. That's correct. So and Jaden, you are right, and your answer is right. So B and D are correct. Let me put it that way. Oh, actually, no. I was going to say B and D are correct, and D is correct because it's shorter. Shorter is better, but no. Actually, B and C are contradictors. There's no contradiction between these two. So it says conditions in the interior of Antarctica are inhospitable to many forms of life. Okay, and then it's mentioning now the temperature sub-zero. These are the conditions. These conditions that make life impossible, basically, are sub-zero temperatures, high winds, and extreme dryness. Make it impossible for most animals to survive. So it's actually like sort of continuing, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Like we can't say, on the other hand, sub-zero temperatures. No. Conditions in the interior of Antarctica are inhospitable to many forms of life. These conditions are sub-zero temperatures, high winds, extreme dryness. Okay, these are the ones that make it impossible for animals to survive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you see why D is the answer? Okay, let me just go over that again. So conditions in the interior of Antarctica are inhospitable to many forms of life. Okay, which conditions? Sub-zero temperatures, high winds, extreme dryness. Okay, so these conditions make it impossible for most animals to survive. So our answer is D. And one thing I want to tell you guys, that sometimes you won't have transitions being required. It's not every time that you need transitions. And if you see that one of your answer choices doesn't have transitions, you should actually check that first. Because sometimes, remember, shorter is better. Chapter 4, shorter is better. I don't know if you remember that, chapter 4, the shorter is better usually. So it is, I want to read from here. It is also possible that no transition will be required. Okay, so the presence of an answer choice without a transition means that a transition may be unnecessary. in such cases, you should check that option first. That's actually just a trick here that we may use. So if we say that conditions in the interior of Antarctica are inhospitable to many forms of life, what's coming afterwards? Remember, let's cross the stuff. Let's cross out the underlying portion. High winds, extreme dryness make it impossible for most animals to survive. So conditions in the interior of Antarctica are inhospitable to many forms of life. And then we have high winds, extreme dryness. These make it impossible for most animals to survive. Is this a contradicting thing? No. Okay, it's not a contradicting thing. So we can remove on the other hand, we can remove nevertheless. So B and C are out. Is it a cause and effect? No, it's not a cause and effect. So A is out, therefore is out. It's not needed, just like Jaden said. So what is it? It's more like a continuum. Do we have any continuing transition there? No, we do not have. So our answer is D. And again, if there's no transition, I would say check that option first, regardless, because remember, shorter is better. But yeah, so that's our answer. So A is wrong because we do not need a cause and effect. This is not a cause and effect relationship. This is not a contradicting relationship. This is more so a continuing. There's no transition that's needed actually in here. I hope we're all clear.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Okay, so it looks like this is what I would advise you guys to do now, even after this lesson. I want you guys to go back to this book and look at from here, page 97. So page 98. Page 98 in the book. On my device is 94, but page 98 in the book. And I want you guys to look at this glossary of transitions. So accordingly, consequently, this means the same as therefore or as a result. These are cause and effect. Furthermore, moreover, this is the same as in addition. These are continuous. In fact, and indeed, these show emphasis. These are continuous. Even so, still, nevertheless, this is the same as despite this. These are contradictors. We have while, whereas these are contradictors. It means the same as although or but. Okay, so I want you guys to look at these things, and then there's an exercise right afterwards. Actually, two exercises. So what I want you guys to do is go over these exercises. You have my number in the group, so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. This video has been recorded and now uploaded to the new YouTube channel, and then feel free to if you missed anything, feel free to go just catch the video. Before I end this recording, is there any questions? Do you have any of you guys have any questions?
No.
Okay, no question. Do we have? Okay, no question. Nice. Okay, so I'll end recording right here, and I just want to say, okay, so I'll end this recording right here. So thanks for your time, guys. Remember, just keep on practicing. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out. Yeah, and I'll be glad to assist you. Next time, what I hope to do is incorporate more of the new SAT, because the SAT has changed now. I think today, March 11th, was the first time the digital SAT has been written internationally. So we'll try to incorporate more of those from the new SAT just to kind of adapt. But yeah, so we'll wrap it up here.